is Meg Alexander. I'm part of Power to Fly's hosting team, and I am, as always, honored and incredibly geeked to get to host today's event. Now, before we dive in for today's event, I just want to go over a couple quick housekeeping items. These will be especially important if maybe you are new to Power to Fly. This might be your first event or your first event in a while. If that's the case, then hello, we're so happy to see you today. Now, truly, y'all, this does not mean that I don't have love for our frequent flyers. Thank you all so much for coming. I absolutely love seeing familiar faces and display names in the chat there. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Now, to what you should know, whether you're a returner or brand new here, is that all of our events are about you. They're about our community members and making sure that you all get the value that you came for from today's event. So to that end, you are welcome and encouraged to participate in a couple different ways. If you'd like, turn your cameras on, share your smiling, maskless faces with us safely. Now, there is truly no pressure, y'all. You do not have to be Instagram perfect. I think I was at day 5 or 6 of dry shampoo and messy bun before I finally caved yesterday. So truly, we do not care if you are in your bathrobe or a 3-piece suit. You can be dialing in from your living room, couch, or corner office. It does not matter to us. So if you want to turn your cameras on, go ahead, feel free. If you don't, completely fine. You can always participate in the chat as well. I'm going to encourage y'all to head over there and dive in. I'm going to put a call out there. If y'all are joining us, let us know where you're joining us from. I'm always really excited to see how far our global audience might spread. I'm coming to you from Toledo, Ohio. This is land that belonged to the Fox, Kickapoo, and Potawatomi tribes in my area. So please feel free, let us know where you're joining us from. And if you know, please feel free to share whose land you're on. Now, we are recording today's session. Now, what that means for you is that you don't have to take notes. You get to sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation that Salma, Jasmine, Tina, and myself are about to have. Now, if you hear something today that is just so mind-blowing, you cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or relative, what you can do is you can head over to our YouTube channel. We'll be posting the video down there, usually by end of business today. And you can always head over to our YouTube channel, grab the link, send it out to as many people as you want. There's also a huge archive. A bunch of our past chats are in that YouTube channel as well. So I'll be sharing links for all of this as we go, y'all. Now, if you maybe aren't super into YouTube, or maybe you just forget, like, you know, the event ends, you've got to run someplace and you forget that you wanted to send that video to your cousin. That's okay. We're going to send y'all an email. It'll usually be about 4 to 5 business days. That'll have a link to where you can rewatch the recording when it's posted on powerfly.com. Now, obviously YouTube is sooner, but the one thing I will say is that our website has all of the archives. We're talking like the Indiana Jones level of archives that go on and on and on and on of all of these resources, right? And past event videos like this, blog posts, interviews with recruiters, all kinds of great stuff is on our website. So I very much recommend that you check out and avail yourself of all of those free resources. Now, like I said, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. If you want us to dive in deeper on a question that's being discussed, ask it in the chat. If you wrote in, let's say you submitted a question and you're not sure if we're going to get to it today, ask it in the chat. If we are going over one of your questions and you think there's context or details we should know, maybe we're just not coming at it from the right angle, let us know in the chat. All right. You all took the time out of your day to be here with us live, and we want to reward you for that. So make sure you ask the questions. That way I can give you the answers that you came for. All right, y'all. I'm very excited to introduce our speakers, but the last thing I'll do before that is just let y'all know that they are here today on behalf of Salesforce. Now, Salesforce is honestly, it's a customer company. Now, they inspire the future of business with AI plus data plus CRM. Now, leading with their core values, Salesforce helps companies across every industry to blaze new trails and connect with their customers in a whole new way. Now, if you're interested in working with them, I really encourage you to visit their company page on powertofly.com. And there you can learn even more about their open roles. Hold on here, y'all. All right, I'm sending y'all a link in the chat right now to where you can check out their company page. It's going to look much like what you're seeing here. And then one call out I want to have for y'all. If you are, there's a big pink button on every single company page on powertofly.com that says follow. Clicking that does some really great things for you. But basically what it does is it allows us to tell the Salesforce team that you are already interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. And it also allows us to keep Salesforce on your radar because we'll tell you when they post new roles. So it's a really great way to kind of help up and alleviate some of the slog in the job search. It's also, that follow button is a really great resource if you're actively seeking, but don't see a role just now that really suits you. It's a really awesome way to make sure that you're on their radar. So if they're planning on jobs that are coming up down the pike, maybe that's something that they could check. But also, there's a whole wealth of information on each of these companies on their pages. So you can check out stuff like their about their company culture, their benefits. You can take a look at past events that they've partnered on with us, as well as searching the jobs and applying to roles there. I will also say, if you look at the events tabs on these company pages, it can give you some really great tips and insights on stuff to mention in upcoming interviews that is not, the latest Business Insider post that made it all over LinkedIn. So just as a heads up, y'all, little extra bonus on some of these company pages that you might want to utilize. Now, very excited to introduce you to the speakers. Y'all are in for several treats today. Let's put it that way. So Jasmine Garrett is joining us from Salesforce. Jasmine is a sales and marketing professional and an account executive within Salesforce for their commercial business, where she focuses on communications, media, and technology businesses. Now, Jasmine maintains and grows over 30 customers, researching and analyzing the strategic business direction and the needs of each assigned account to determine how Salesforce can best align itself as a solution and service partner for all current and future business needs for that client. Now, Jasmine is currently on the leadership team for the National Sales Network, the South Florida chapter, as the VP of Events, and recently joined Salesforce's ERG, Bold Force at Home, as their events co-lead. Jasmine, welcome to the stage. So happy to have you. Is there anything else our audience should know about you today?
I think you covered it all. Nothing I can think of at the moment, but happy to be here and excited for the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Now, joining Jasmine, we are going to talk to Salma Ferdowsi. Salma is an enthusiastic and results-driven leader. Now, she started her sales career more than 6 years ago as an account executive at Salesforce, supporting their grassroots nonprofit organizations to help them amplify their impact by leveraging technology. Now, in 2020, she stepped into her first sales leadership position at Salesforce, leading one of the 3 Salesforce.org's business development teams, which led to her current role as the West Small Business Nonprofit Sales Leader. Now, prior to her career at Salesforce, Salma spent 2 years at a local nonprofit focusing on providing STEM education resources for students furthest from access and opportunity. Salma, if one of those things wasn't impressive enough, it's kind of one thing after the other here. Welcome to our humble chat today. Is there anything else our audience should know about you?
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for joining. One thing that I did not include there, I am an immigrant and English is my second language. So I wanted to just preface that that everybody has the opportunity to thrive and do well and succeed, even if English is not your first language.
Absolutely. I'm always stunned and so impressed by people that have multiple languages, because try as I might, English is the only one that's stuck, and I don't even speak it that well. So I am in awe of literally anybody who can speak anything other than what they were born speaking. It's magic to me. All right, following up and rounding out our panel today, we have Tina Lai. Now, Tina is a Silicon Valley veteran of over 16 years in the sales teams. Starting from retail, she moved to insurance, freelance marketplace to services, and then found her niche in tech. Now, as an aficionado for technology and a lifelong proponent of enabling businesses to be future forward, Tina has dedicated her life to helping others advance in both tech and sales. Now, Tina's established career helping early stage startups to realize their full potential and revenue. It then became more of an independent consultant and recommending Salesforce to all of her startups. And at that point, Tina realized her home had really always been in Salesforce. And that's where she's been ever since. Tina, welcome to the stage today. We're so happy to have you. Is there anything else our audience should know about you?
Well, I do have another full-time job. It's being a mom of 2 boys, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and also for a mom to 2 dogs, Pitbull and Chewini, both rescues. So I definitely have been working a lot, but I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my, y'all, so much support and respect to people keeping other people besides themselves alive. I can barely manage myself and 2 dogs. So big props there. So thank you so much, Tina, for joining us. All right, y'all, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and we will continue on into our questions. But I want to take this second here to highlight for everybody. If you have a question that you want to ask or you want us to dive in deeper, please feel free. Go ahead and ask your question in the chat. If you have any questions or comments that you would like to make, but you want to be kept anonymous, not a problem. Just feel free to DM me. You can find my name, Meg Alexander, in the drop down on your group chat. And I'm happy to answer or discuss any questions you have there. I do want to call out, y'all, we do have people joining us from Quebec, Minneapolis, Texas, San Francisco, Trinidad and Tobago, Allentown, PA, Lauderdale, Florida, Asheville, North Carolina, Dayton, Ohio. Hi, Summer, not too far from me. So thank you all for chiming in there. I really do love seeing how far our audience is spread. Okay, so first question I have, what I want to talk about what a personal sales brand truly means to each of you. So in sales, if you are trying to create this personal brand, what does that mean to you and how do you do it? Salma, do you want to get us started?
I'm more than happy to. Thanks so much, Meg. For me, truly a personal brand and a sales professional brand is what you stand for. What are your core values and how does that align with the perspective in your current company? And do those things actually align and or overlap, right? One of the main reasons I joined Salesforce, and Salesforce is one of the ideal companies that I wanted to be a part of, is because customer success is one of our core values, doing the right thing for our customers. And aside from the numbers and the pressures of selling, knowing that at the end of the day, what's important is, am I doing the right thing for the customer in recommending the right set of solutions to really meet their goals and meet them where they're at? So for me, it truly goes back to my core values and how it aligns with the company core values and doing the right thing. And then also pushing limits, right? How can I, in connecting with my customers, help them understand the vision and what's possible, and encouraging them to think bigger and greater than what they're currently doing at their organization.
I love that. Tina, you were nodding along as well here. What does having a personal sales, like a personal brand within the sales field, like what does that mean to you? Is it different than how you cultivate your personal brand elsewhere?
I would say a personal sales brand is a unique presentation of who you are. So it's a great way of displaying your skills. It'll combine your skills experience and it does showcase your personality as well. And I always think of it, start by thinking of something that you're really passionate about and then elevating that to the next level. It could be a cause that you're passionate about, like someone mentioned about having your core values be one of the foundations of it. If you're into grassroots marketing to help educate youth in underserved communities, leverage that piece. Or it could be a skill like having a high EQ score of self-awareness or social awareness. Or it could even be a skill that you developed yourself by reading a book like The Challenger Sale and the Challenger methodology. So I would say whatever it is, just pick something that really drives you and motivates you. And that's how you're able to also show authenticity, is when it's something that comes from your heart. That's the best way to kind of showcase who you are and how to stand out, from the rest of the pack.
I really love that idea of, see what makes you different, what makes you not part of the crew, and then you utilize that to your benefit because they don't have it. So I love this advice here. Jasmine, how about you? What does a personal brand in sales mean to you?
Yeah, I think these two ladies talked about two main things, and we always do this when we're with each other. But when putting those together, I think that's huge. When you're talking about customer success as well as that authenticity and kind of finding your own, when you have a personal brand within the sales function, when it comes to your customers, you want them to know that they can trust you, and that you are an expert in your field, and that you are someone that they can rely on and can really do business with, partner. Like, yes, we want the sale, but I know Jasmine is a true partner to me. She has my best interest at heart, right? But then also internally, you want to be known as someone that's a team player, someone that can work well with others, someone that is dedicated to the craft, but as well as selfless in a way. So however you are giving back to your community, giving back to your company's organization, I feel like all of those play a part in kind of who you are and your authenticity, but also make doing your job that much better.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good idea. And actually, it kind of, as you were talking, it kind of reminded me, I sat in on a personal brand session, it was probably a year and a half ago. And the person said, your personal brand, you can think of your personal brand as what you want people to say about you when you're not in the room. And the more I thought about that, I was like, oh, I really like that, because like you can't determine what people are going to say about you, right? But we can try and influence as much as possible.
Right.
So I do think that's awesome. I'm putting a question in the chat here. If y'all want to chime in, if you do have a personal brand, let us know what it is. If not, what do you want others to say about you when you're not in the room? All right, my next question, Jasmine, I'm coming to you first on this one. How do you think your personal sales brand has impacted your professional development?
So this this is a great example of how my personal sales brand has impacted my professional development. It definitely has put me in rooms that I didn't even know existed or didn't even know I would be considered for. That's for sure. But has also exposed me to other areas that I may be of interest in regards to my professional development, right? It exposes some of those different departments, some of those different roles. It puts you in a place sometimes where maybe someone wants to create a role for you, depending on what that brand is, what you're good at in sales or outside of sales. And so it really has, I feel like, propelled me, especially within this year. I'm naturally like a person that's always volunteering myself for stuff. And then I'm naturally a person that's very active on social media. So like those two things together is going to happen regardless. And that has just had me in opportunities where people are asking me to do things opposed to me asking to do things. So been really loving it and helping me kind of expand my thought process on like what my future is going to look like.
Sorry, I lost my unmute button. So don't feel bad when it happens to
Volume
y'all.
went out. I thought my
Y'all,
volume.
I'm on these stupid things like how many times a week, and I still lose my mute button. So yeah, truly, y'all. Okay, let's talk about what this looks like. Salma or Tina, would either of y'all like to weigh in here, or do you want to keep moving? See if Jasmine kind of covered everything you would say. Yeah, keep moving. All right, we'll keep moving. Okay, let's talk about structuring a personal brand, especially within sales. Are there any key information or key skills that we should focus on highlighting? Tina, do you want to start us off here?
Yep. And again, I think this always leads back to what you're passionate about. So define your unique value proposition and what makes you stand out from the crowd. And that way your personality can really shine through. So I would say that's like the first one is to know who you are and then be able to demonstrate that. So that can be in ways of, let's say you're an industry expert in AI and being able to share content that's related to it, or belonging to online communities and groups that talk about it. So that is just being able to really add value into these online communities, and then showcasing, a great part of how you could stand out from the rest. The second is, of course, the soft skills too. So staying authentic and genuine, and of course, being humble. That's always going to be important because people know, they can spot a fake from a mile away. So just be yourself. And then the people will follow, and that brand will also come. I would say another skill is, or not really a skill, just be consistent and show that you can deliver results, whatever it is. And that is, if you're consistent in your brand, if you consistently are talking about AI and joining these different groups, then that will be a way to really develop your own personal sales brand. So I would say those are a few ways or key skills that you can focus on.
I like that. I especially like the like kind of leaning into your personality, because I feel like we hear this a lot where people talk about kind of having like their home life, their work life, and you have like a persona sort of, right? But we, when we're talking about like bringing your full self to work and being true to yourself, it's not that you should be a different person. It's just that there's different facets of our personality that we highlight depending on the situation. So, I do think that there is a middle ground there, right? Between being kind of like your party friend self versus, being your professional self. But I do think I sit and talk to a lot of people all week long, and Tina's exactly right. it sounds different, right? There's a palpable difference in the way you're delivering something when you're talking about yourself authentically versus when you're trying to make people think something about you that isn't really you. So yeah, I love that. Jasmine, how about you? Do you structure your personal sales brand in a specific way, or do you think that there's like specific things that you should be highlighting in a personal brand?
I don't want to say I structure it in a specific way because my personal brand is really just like who I am, like in its totality. One thing I do say is that when it comes to different tips about your personal brand, it's really highlighting what matters to you, right? What do you want to be exemplified? What do you want to be on the forefront? Whether that's, and it doesn't have to always be in the social media aspect, right? Aspect, sorry. But even internally, like what do you want people to know about you? Like there are certain things people have no idea about me, right? But there are things that are true to who I am that I think are relevant to my everyday, if it's outside of my actual job, but also the things that I do within my job. And so I think really just kind of pinpointing those things about you is huge that you want to be shared. And again, to your point, Meg, like that authenticity is everything because things can come off showy very easy. Things can come off as people are trying too hard. And like people can see that from a mile away. And so once you become more authentic within yourself and more confident in who you are and what you bring to the table, like that brand will just manifest itself. Like your name will be in those rooms because of who you are and what they have tailored from what they've heard about you, what they've heard you say, or what they know you do. But it won't be like, I don't know, she really does that, but that's what she said. It'll really be organically something that somebody wants to brag about you about.
Yeah, I think you hit on a really important thing that we haven't really touched on yet, which is it's really easy for people to take confidence and equate it to cockiness. And I feel like as women, we get socialized into this a lot, right? You're not supposed to brag about yourself. You're supposed to like cheer on the team and you're supposed to be confident in yourself, but you're not supposed to be cocky. Sorry, y'all. I saw Barbie last week and now I'm on one. But like truly, this is a situation where if you let's turn to the great Yogi Berra, if anybody's old enough to remember him, it's not bragging if you've done it, right? So if you are worried about coming off a certain way, like, did you do the thing? Excellent, because who didn't do the thing? Anybody else. So really, like, I do think you're right. It does take a certain amount of confidence, and you don't want to be putting yourself in a situation of people like saying, well, is she really that great? But nobody cares more about your career and nobody thinks more highly of you than you should. So it really does, make sense to think about these things. Mary is chiming in, Tina, about your point, saying your point about value prop is a key. You know yourself best. And if you don't ask people about what they know, and if you don't ask people about what they know for you, using your self-awareness and your career interest to brand yourself or market yourself is vital to that personal message. Salma, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, there's one thing I want to add, and it goes back to kind of when I was transitioning from the nonprofit space and my previous organization. I was a part of to Salesforce as an account executive. And the first place I started was my job description. What am I responsible for? And taking a very deep sense of responsibility for my deliverables and showcasing impact. And then taking that a step further of how can I help peers around me? How can I help my manager? How can I help my cross-functional business leaders? And how can I have a bigger impact on the organization as a whole? And to your point earlier, is like, what are people saying in rooms that I'm not in? They're really reflecting on my brand and the way I showed up and the way I continued a consistent performance and helped our customers. So I think sometimes if you feel lost, it's good to just go back to your, job description of like, what am I responsible for? What is my leadership looking at me to deliver? And ironically, a funny story when I actually experienced this in real life when I was taking a shuttle back home. And one of the sales strategy partners was on that shuttle and looked at my name and he was like, I see your name on the Excel sheets. I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. You're in the front line selling. I only look at the data and I see, names on a spreadsheet. So I'd love to pick your brain. So you just, there's so many conversations and a big organization. There's so many wheels churning and you never know who taps you on the shoulder, given your brand, your reputation, to seek guidance and advice.
There we go. This makes a total, makes a ton of sense because, you aren't going to get anywhere if you don't put yourself out there, right? But it can be very like, it can feel weird to kind of feel like you're constantly talking about yourself because you want people to know about you. And so I think that is really important to remember that like people could also see the things that you've been involved with, and it's not just what you are telling them to their face. There is somebody chiming in saying, see, Jasmine says, I know is that Jasmine Garrett? No, different Jasmine, sorry. So different Jasmine in the chat chimed in saying, I know I've started to shrink my authentic self due to me worrying about the reception or perception of those around me, especially because I've been at my organization for a few years. I think this is common, right? I think this is something a lot of people go through because you get into the place and now you want to work on your brand and you're like, okay, but they don't know me like that. And you know what? That's okay. Like I want to hear if anybody here has dealt with this, trying to change your brand within the location you're already in. I will be the first person to tell you, y'all, I mean, I'm Facebook stalkable. I did not look like this 5 years ago. Did not. But I am finally being true to myself and what I want to look like and what I want to present. And granted, I am very resourced and, have the luxury of being able to do so. Not everyone has that, but it's just wild how much better you feel when you're not trying to tone yourself down, right? It's so much mental stress, so much mental energy. Really, Natasha's in here. I think that Natasha thinks that only women have this issue and men just walk in. There's a lot of this, right? I mean, we can't draw these hard lines, but like, it's absolutely a trend. Salma, what do you think about this? Have you been in a position to try and change your brand while at a company, and trying to work within that system? Or have you not had to deal with this?
Your brand is always evolving. It's a living character and it's a living organism that continues to evolve as you're evolving. We're humans, right? Who I was 5 years ago is not who I am today. And so with life, I think it's okay to be, understanding of that. I'm not that same person that joined the company 5 years ago, and maybe I have different goals and aspirations. And it's okay to press reset, right? And go back to those, true values and the reasons why you joined that company, and slowly start to get to know your community and start to build the brand that you do want to, foresee long term. So I do think it's okay. And we're always evolving, we're always changing, we're always growing. And it's an evolution, and it's okay to, tell yourself, I want to press pause. These are the areas I want to change. And this is how I want to change it. First and foremost, for me personally, it has been a humongous value just having a connected community, whether it's people at Salesforce or people I've been able to lean on outside of my Salesforce network of, hey, I need help with X, Y, and Z. This is, the things that I've thought about. What's your idea?
I like that a lot. Tina, do you want to chime in here on anything about personal brand? Or the evolving nature of it, I should say.
I completely agree with Salma. I think she actually covered it pretty well.
All right. Okay, Jasmine, we're going to go to you next. Let's talk about some of the challenges that we could face when we're kind of brainstorming what we want our personal brand to be, and kind of that execution of it. What are some of the common mistakes that people make or that we should watch out for?
Well, I would say one, I think someone actually called out in the chat, that can be a challenge for others, is really like having the confidence or even the comfortability to put yourself out there, right? Because some people I'm that way as well. Like I'm very sheltered at times. And so it took me a minute to really like own my accomplishments and own what I've done. And I think that's one of the main challenges because, to your point, Meg, as women, and it's come up in a couple panels that we've done. It's like we don't advocate for ourselves well, which is very true. And so finding ways to advocate for yourself that you're comfortable with is probably one of those main challenges, because it's like you can't force anybody just to do this because I told you you need to do this, so you're going to do it. This is not how life works. Like you have to warm up to what you're comfortable with. And I think really identifying what your niche is and how you want to at least start expressing your personal brand will probably be that main challenge that I could see for a lot of people, especially women, and being comfortable with that and really owning it. For instance, like my boss reached out to me today asking me for like a list of the things that I've been doing with Bowforce and what I've been doing with NSN. And I literally was staring at the screen like, And I just did like 4 things, but I could not think of them to save my life because I'm not keeping track of it. I'm not always thinking about like, ooh, let me make sure I tell somebody about this. You know what I mean? So just trying to really find what your flow is and how to keep track of your accolades, but then how are you comfortable sharing that or bringing that out to the world?
Yeah, I like that. I had a past manager that told me to have a kudos folder in my email. And so, and I think I made it a folder and a tag possibly. So that way, like if somebody sent me a compliment, I could have it. And truly most of it, I use it for selfish reasons, right? You're having a bad day. I don't think I'm very good at what I do anymore. And then it's like, oh, other people do like talking to me. I'm not just, so,
Yeah.
I do think that's awesome, but exactly like use that tip, y'all, because you will be like absolutely so surprised when you go back and remember like, oh yeah, I worked on that project and that was so cool. Or like, that was a really hard turnaround. And you know who was in that meeting? The VP. And I turned that around. And so now I get to remember and talk about that in my, in your next job interview or in your week, yearly review, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, in Salesforce, we have like a brag book situation that we can use to enter our stuff in. I actually looked at it today and it instantly overwhelmed me. So I really need to like sit down and go back, at least to the beginning of this fiscal, and really like dedicate time to write down all my stuff so I can go back to it. Because I have a brag book section in my resume, but I'm not using my resume often because I'm not looking for a job right now. So, it's so outdated. So when it's also time to update that, like I'm going to be stuck, right? So but even like if you go on my LinkedIn, like everyone knows I'm very active on LinkedIn, but you will be very surprised how much thought and hesitation I have right before I post anything on LinkedIn. And so that's why I said that challenge is really like overcoming, that kind of hesitation of, will somebody think this is performative? Will somebody think this is, and it's like, Jasmine, this is you. You were going to do this anyway. But because it's more in a professional aspect, you're overthinking it. And I'm an overthinker.
It's like the stakes are higher somehow.
Yeah. I'm overthinker at the highest form.
Girl, same. Tina, how about you? What do you think are some of the challenges that people might face when they're trying to design their personal brand?
I think I was looking at the chat. Lee called out one of the biases that may occur, being Asian American. I'm actually a dual citizen of Taiwan and the US. So I completely understand, what it's like to be mistaken for another Asian person at the office. It happens all the time. And that is definitely something that I think culturally we still have to overcome. But again, like I said, it does kind of go back to that one or two things that you're very passionate about. And that can be what sets you apart or differentiates you. You could be like I actually was a volunteer as a counselor for the suicide prevention hotline. And, that was something I was very passionate about. And so I feel like if there's something else that they can potentially attribute to you, then that could be a way of just differentiating who you are. So then you're setting yourself as, that advocate or it could be, again, just leveraging your knowledge in AI or whatever that characteristic you want to highlight is. So I definitely challenge and all the viewers today to think about like one attribute or one topic that you're truly passionate about and find a way of just kind of building your story or your personal brand behind it, because a way to showcase who you are is not through a list of accomplishments, but rather a list of things that you're doing and how much you're influencing or impacting the people that are around you.
I like that. I very much like that differentiation between the things that you've done and the things you are doing. I absolutely love that distinction there. Okay, let's talk about how much time we should be spending on this. Tina, I'm going to go to you first. What kind of time commitment do you think people should be committing to building or maintaining or evolving their personal brand?
Well, as a mother, I have literally no time ever. But I would say you do have time, maybe 4 or 5 hours a week. But it could also just be related to, your job search, just finding interesting articles about how to make yourself stand out, or anything that you're fascinated about, to show your expertise in a certain industry. It can even just, instead of, or maybe reallocating the time you spend on social media mindlessly perusing and just being more proactive about it and finding a great article, inspirational quote that you can just post. And that is just a great way to be able to dedicate to, showcasing who you are and highlighting your personal brand.
Excellent. Salma, how about you? How much time do you think you spend generally?
I would say ebbs and flows, just given the nature of the work, and the time of the month and quarter for us. But I would say leaning on your community and getting to know others within your company or outside of your direct company is so pivotal. It opens your eyes to a bigger, community, roles, types of companies, different solutions, and different products that are different company and different processes too internally. So I would say if you do have the time, 2 to 3 people a month, connect with them, right? Set up a coffee chat. They could also learn from you of what you're doing in your role and continue to kind of build a network. And you never know when that individual could, help you, and vice versa. So I would say building relationships is a huge time investment that certainly pays it forward and pays off at the end.
I think that's a really good point. Tina had mentioned different things that could be, part of building your personal brand, as well as what you had said, Salma. And I think it is really important to know it doesn't have to look a certain way. There's multiple ways that you can be impacting or strengthening or, widening the audience for your personal brand. Honestly, half of it, like what y'all have said, is by being authentic. Pretty much everything you're doing is helping to solidify and bolster that brand. So I do think that it's really, really important and something to focus on or to highlight is that, like, this doesn't have to overtake your life, but you might be working on it more than you actually realize. So I think that's really excellent there. Jasmine, I want to go to you first for this question. A lot of people had asked about basically how your personal brand can play in a job search. We did get a really great follow-up to this one, so I'm going to kind of wrap it all in together. Tony had asked, I would love to hear how you can translate your brand into a professional summary that doesn't sound like a dating app profile, but will be purposeful. I have over a decade of experience in different roles, and I do feel odd talking about my strengths in a way that doesn't drone on. This is a good one. So let's talk about it. What role can your personal brand play in your job search strategy? And how should we be crafting these? So, how can we be communicating these, I should say?
Yeah. So one super cheat code, somebody probably said it in the chat. I wouldn't be surprised if this question was in the chat. But I mean, right now, ChatGPT could probably sum up your life for you real quick in a couple of sentences. But if we did not have ChatGPT, because that just hit the market, I feel like in like the past 2 months and it's blown up, I would really say when talking about your personal branding, who you are, whether that's having a summary on your resume, whether that's talking to a recruiter, whether that's at a networking event, I think really aligning examples or experiences opposed to listing things out, right? So if I'm talking to you and I'm like, I'm very involved in the community and I'm in this org and I'm in this org and I'm in this org, it could really honestly be a situation of, I'm a sales executive at Salesforce and I really also love to be a part of hiring diverse recruiting. For example, I have events around professional development and would love you to come. That instantly kind of opens up that like, oh, okay, so if she does that, then she may also do this. Or even if it's talking about a customer, like I love problem solving, instead of saying I love problem solving or I'm good at problem solving, it's like, can I tell you about that time that this customer did XYZ 1, 2, 3, and this is how I resolved it. And now we're best friends. And now they know that you're a problem solver. Now that they know that you're personable, you can rapport build. So I think bringing experiences into it when you're talking is probably the easiest way. And then when writing it out, let it sound like a dating profile, because guess what? They should want to date you. So that's my advice.
Y'all, everything in your life is dating. It's dating or sales. I'm telling you, literally everything. You're either trying it on to see if you want to buy or you're buying it.
And I'm a review reader. So for me, if I was the one looking at it, let it sound like a dating profile, because I want to know everything, how it happened, and what was your 5-star rating. If it was a 3.5, I want to know why. So
I don't know if I'd maybe go as deep as like certain qualities of an org is like smash and pass, but like close to, right? Like we want to be authentic about what we're looking for and what we're not. I feel like I say it all of the time, but like, y'all are interviewing these companies just as much as they are interviewing you. So, just, it's like going on a date with somebody and trying so hard to make sure that they like you and they want to date you, but you don't ever ask any questions about them. And you're just like, I mean, I guess you look cool. You look all right. This will, it's fine. So truly, like, as we're thinking about these things, it is really important to think of it as that two-way street and to realize like, this is a very big part of the job search. And so much of it can feel like you don't have control over things. And this is a part that you can control. Ask the questions that matter to you. And even more so, pay attention to the tone of the answers. Are they, I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much. I want to go back to y'all. Salma, there are people who are very uncomfortable when it comes to self-advocating. I do it better by pretending I'm talking about my friend. What do you do to try and help make sure that when you're self-advocating, you feel confident, you don't feel like you're, puffing yourself up? What's something that works for you?
Yeah, I struggled with this in my early days. And even I go back to that moment where I was sitting in the lobby questioning myself of why would this Fortune 500 company, Salesforce, hire me? I have no skills. English is my second language. I've worked at a nonprofit and that's it. That's all that's on my resume, and some retail, Bath and Body Works, Michael Kors, and some retail experience. I continue to doubt myself, even when I joined of the pressure of proving myself, improving my brand, and making a name for myself. But ultimately, it really opened my eyes of just leaning on the people around me and focusing on what's in my control more than anything, right? I truly believe in being bold, but at the same time, the path that I'm paving, I hope it creates paths for others, for female leaders, female sales leaders, minority leaders, right? And so that is really my purpose and where my heart is, where if it's making me uncomfortable, I ask myself, why is it making me uncomfortable? Sessions like these, right? They're not easy to get in front of people, but at the same time, I recognize the tremendous amount of gratitude I have for these platforms to be able to help others find success in their career and find something that they're passionate about. And I remember how this can amplify in terms of helping others. And that's what really drives me and gets me over the hump of the nervousness.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this idea of maybe focusing on the results of it as opposed to just focusing on what you're going to say. I think that is absolutely wonderful. And you touched on a point that is very near and dear to my heart, which is it's all well and good to be the first, right? That's all well and good, but your responsibility at that point is to make sure you are not the last. So whether the person that follows you looks like you, acts like you, whatever, and is also going to be blazing that trail, that's great. But I'm not just holding the door open for the next Technicolor 36-year-old white woman that comes behind me, right? I'm holding the door open for people who do not have access to the kinds of rooms that I get to get into. So I absolutely 110% behind you here, Salma. Let's talk about ways to create and kind of like communicate that personal brand without coming across as trying too hard. Or we've all been on dates with those people that are like, here's all of the great things about me. I'm not going to talk it all to you. So if we want to not be that person, how should we be talking about ourselves here? Tina, do you want to help?
I would say just focus on your core values, and maybe let's say one of my core values is, helping others and enabling others or empowering others. If I just, focus on that aspect of my brand, others that also help others or mentor others in leadership positions will actually gravitate towards you because they have that as a core value in common. Like Salesforce, customer service is one of our core values. Our customers come first. And that aligns with my own values as well. Throughout my career, I've always been here to help serve my customers. So that's also why it's such a great fit to work for this company. It's because the values align. So I would say if it's just coming from, again, your heart, then it's part of your values, then it's not really selling too hard. It's just you and what you believe in.
Yeah, I like that. All right, Jasmine, I want to come to you. Oh, wait, hold on. We just got a question in here about grouping adjectives together. Let me see this here.
Oh, that was me. Ignore
That was you. Okay. Yeah,
I-
Jasmine, they want to dive in a little bit more on that. So can you talk a little bit more about what you mean about grouping adjectives together when you're trying to make it flow?
Well, when someone had noted, like when they go on a date, that when a guy keeps bragging about himself, that is a no-no, right? And so, which is very fair. And I said, when guys do it, it's probably giving arrogant. So I'm saying you have to add the finesse to it, right? You don't want to come off, to our point, arrogant, cocky. You're coming off confident. And when I said grouping adjectives, especially when we're talking about writing it or even talking, there's certain things, especially in sales, we can all talk, right? But when you really think about certain things that you do that could be grouped into certain categories or certain descriptive terms, that can also help you feel like, to the main question's point, when she said she's been in the business for 10 years, like she doesn't want it to be this long dragged out thing. Like, how can you maybe group those things? How can you make them a little bit shorter, but still convey what you're trying to say? So that's kind of what I meant by that.
I did it again. Thank you so much, Jasmine. Okay, our next question wants to talk a little bit about communicating that sales brand. Let's talk about social media. I'm thinking in terms of like LinkedIn or other professional social networks there. Is this something that y'all share, your personal brand? Is it something you call out in a place like your LinkedIn profile? Or is it, again, something that you try and have what's on the page speak for itself, I guess? Is this something you would call out separately? Jasmine, you're all over LinkedIn. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, of course, I use way more than I used to now. Like, that is like my digital resume / brag book / I guess happy place, you can say. So I think having your personal brand on social media is very huge, especially in this day and age. And of course, we're lucky enough because we have LinkedIn now, right? Before, we didn't have that. So it was very much am I going to post this on Facebook? Am I going to post this on Twitter? If that's not your brand on Twitter, like my brand on Twitter is not my professional brand, right? So me randomly posting that I'm on this talk today on Twitter, they'll be like, that's random. I didn't even know she worked at you still, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't flow, if you're being honest. Facebook, I rarely use, Instagram, I am a big user of. And so, to your point, I have actually started to put some of my personal brand on my Instagram, but I think it's also because of the place I'm in my life. Like, I'm getting to the place where my Instagram, we're all in a place where we are professionals now. People are getting married, people are having kids, right? So like, it's not the Instagram it was when I was in college. And so now my accolades, sometimes I do post them on there, and really are starting to put some more of my professional stuff on there as well, because there's people within that community that I could be helping, or that I could be informing on jobs at Salesforce, or, different tips I'm learning, or be able to partner with somebody. So I think using social media is huge. Just really depends on what your brand is on that social media and how you want to expound your professional brand there as well. But use it as your playground. LinkedIn is a place to Tina's point, you could do so many different things with it. If it's posting articles, like if your brand is education and you're really good at educating people on industry trends or what's going on, like your LinkedIn brand could literally be you creating articles. They have an option where you can be a writer and create your own blog post and be posting about this is going on in tech and this is going on in AI and this is doing this. Like, that could be your brand. Or if you just want to post what's going on in your life, that's cool. If you want to post opportunities for jobs and that's what your passion is to make sure people are educated about what jobs are on the market, or if you're really good at connecting people, like having, networking circles and things like that, like you can really manipulate that platform to really do whatever you want it to do. And so I think really maximizing it to the best of your ability is really important.
Yeah, I'm seeing a comment in the chat here from Shreya Prasad saying, I recently changed my cover picture on LinkedIn to reflect my side hustles and included links to my webpage. And I very much like that as well. Because like the pictures are well and good, but like, it's a picture. It's what I picked, So I think that is really good, a way of really utilizing the extra space that you're given.
Especially that cover image. Before, we used to all just put like kind of like
mountains.
It would just be like a beautiful thing of the Golden Gate Bridge, or like, things like that. But now people, if you go on a lot of Salesforce people, they have like a Salesforce thing, or people are Salesforce certified. It has all their badges, like right open their page and the cover. Some people have like their headshots up there, maybe like what they do or how to contact them. So definitely utilize it to the best of your ability, but don't feel like you have to use it like any generic social media. Like, you can really make it your own.
I like that. All right, y'all, I'm going to ask the question so I'm 37. I'm not like boomer age, but I feel like mentally I am a boomer when it comes to tech. If you are not that person, let's say you're not the LinkedIn person, that's not what you're known for, but you want to start posting stuff like this. Do you need to worry about engagement, or are you at this point just kind of looking to build a backlog in case somebody goes to your LinkedIn and looks there? That way they can kind of see like, oh yeah, this is a person that's like interested in stuff. Or do you think it's more important to just focus on the social that really works for you as opposed to trying to relearn something like LinkedIn?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, like if you don't get traction from a post, like if you know what I mean, should people ignore that and just kind of keep going to build up that personal brand if that's where they want to use their LinkedIn space for? Or should you think about things like engagement on posts, you know, if you're not functioning within the influencer space, I guess?
Well, I think the engagement on posts will come. Like,
Okay.
I do not see myself as an influencer, but slowly my LinkedIn is rising. But again, when you're just kind of being authentic to yourself and your content, the good thing about LinkedIn that I've noticed over the years is like LinkedIn, like somebody's post will show forever. Like you may post something right now, Meg, and that thing will jump back in front of me in a week if I didn't like it or if I didn't, etc. Or if you follow me, but Amy doesn't follow me, but you like my posts, Amy will see that Meg liked my posts and we'll see. So I think still using your perspective, if you feel like other social media platforms is not the place, if you don't feel like it aligns with kind of what your brand is there, right? If it's too personal and you don't want to put that there, that's fine. I say still utilize it and don't worry about the engagement. I feel like the engagement will grow. The one thing I think is so important on LinkedIn is the connection part. Like the adding connections and following other people is so important for the fact that Twitters and Instagrams and Facebook, we add who we know. And so at LinkedIn, when it first started, like if someone tried to add you and you didn't know them, you were just like, I don't know you. And it's really meant for professional networking. So you may add somebody who lives in a whole nother country, but works in the same field as you, and you never know that person will end up being a benefactor in your life lately. So I think really expanding your connections, expanding the orgs you follow, the companies you follow is really important, because then the engagement will also come from that as well. But I say use it regardless, in my opinion.
That. Okay. Last question I think we're probably gonna be able to get to. This one's going to be a popcorn round, so quick as you can from each of you. The question is, what's one piece of advice you wish you had received when you were first starting your career journey in sales? Salma, you haven't given me a terrified face, so I'm gonna go to you first.
Be patient. It takes time. Building your brand does not happen overnight. It builds over time of doing the right thing, showing up for others, showing up for your customers, delivering obviously results, but results don't come overnight either. So I would say be patient with yourself, and it is something that evolves and continues to build as you continue to grow your career.
Like that. Tina, how about you? What's one piece of advice you really wish you had gotten?
That change is good and change is inevitable. And you really need to embrace it, because when my younger self, anytime something changed and I was getting really comfortable, it kind of freaked me out. But now I realized that was an inflection point in my life, and that something really great was going to happen. And if I had to endure the bads and the low before I, get to the highs of my career. So change, it's meant to happen.
I like that. I very much like that. Jasmine, how about you? What's the one piece of advice that you're like, oh, I wish someone had told me this?
Honestly, I think, and I know we're here on Salesforce's capacity, so this is not a dig at Salesforce, let me be very clear, but companies come and go, right? And so when I first started out, I was used to my parents retiring from their company. They've been there 25, 35 years, right? They started from the bottom, worked their way up, right? So when starting, even with my old company, that was like my mentality. Once I got in there, it was just like, how am I staying here? And I actually got laid off in the first 6 months. And I did find another role within the company, which I was happy with. But as I started to progress my career, it was starting to feel forced. It was like, I felt like I had to stay here, but like, so how was I going to find a role that I actually liked or that I would be happy in, et cetera? And it got to a point where it's like, my 5-year plan probably would be so different right now if I was really focusing on what I want to do and what my impact is going to be long term, opposed to what does my 5-year plan look like with this company. And so that's one thing I'm working on right now, is really just understanding me and who I am and what my trajectory looks like now that I'm with a different company who has a vast amount of opportunities compared to my last. But God forbid, this isn't my end all be all. What do I want to do? So that way, if I don't work for Salesforce anymore, I still know what my goal is and what I'm trying to achieve. And so I feel like I'm a little behind with that, but I'm really trying to like hone into what that is for me, due to kind of that experience.
That's a good one. Like, I think you made a really good point that I don't know I would have thought about until later on. Yeah. If we're past the point where people get their first job in the mailroom and 35 years later they retire and get the gold watch, right? We are completely beyond that point. And that's okay. Like, I don't need a gold watch, and I definitely don't want to spend 35 years in the same place. So I think it is really important to highlight that, your personal brand is not dependent on your current role. It isn't dependent on the place you work. Your personal brand is something that will follow you. And, like Salma said, you keep going back to things like your personal values, like Tina had said as well, then you have something that is viable outside of that office or outside of that industry or that space.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't want to cut anybody off, but I want to make sure we have a little bit of time here to talk a little bit more about Salesforce. So we had asked some questions to the team before today's session started. And I want to make sure that we go over some of these. So Jasmine, you said that you described the company culture as refreshing. What does that mean for you?
It was refreshing just because I feel like Salesforce is very current when it comes to the culture, the people, the innovation, the trust. I just feel like in this day and age, it was very refreshing because my previous employer was an amazing company, but I didn't know I was in a box, right? I didn't know I was kind of living a couple, maybe decades, a little further back until I came into this place where it also helped me feel very authentically myself. I didn't feel like I had to be somebody else. I didn't feel like I was trying to conform to somebody else's culture. I feel like the culture is me, if that makes sense. So that's where refreshing came from.
Yes, of course. All right. Your favorite part of working at Salesforce, Salma, is the people and solution. Can you tell me what solution is?
The products.
Yeah.
And the innovation that we continue to do on whether it's the nonprofit solution or our health cloud. Every vertical is invested in quite a bit and staying on top of the trends of what we're providing customers. So the product and the solution definitely keeps us on our toes, but it is really exciting to see the innovation.
Excellent. All right, Tina, you are bringing us home. What is your top tip for someone who's interviewing? And is this tip Salesforce specific, or do you think this applies regardless of where people are looking?
This applies regardless of where people are looking. And I mean, it's pretty cliche. It's confidence is key. But I do want to highlight that no one is immune to, grappling with their own issues of self-confidence or imposter syndrome. But what I mean is, be overly prepared, because confidence comes from preparation. And, and I don't mean like prepping, knowing the company's background, values, who's interviewing you, what college they went to. Not in that aspect. Of course, you have to do that. But what I mean is to actually prep for these scenarios and situations of the interview process. Prepare for the scenario of what if you are 5 minutes late? How are you going to handle that or respond to that? Prepare for if you get a question that you were not prepared for and you start to feel anxiety. How are you going to handle that? And of course, prepare for visualize yourself at the company and actually working there, because that's always a great way to manifest your future there as well. But definitely replay all those scenarios and have a solution, not just playing them as like, oh my God, this is going to go bad and then stop there. But like, what will I do if it starts to kind of go downhill? I am prepared to acknowledge it, take a deep breath, and then say, oh, I haven't gotten that question before. Let me think about it for a second before you answer it. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you. All right, y'all, that is going to bring us to the end of time today. But I just want to say a huge thank you to Jasmine, Salma, and Tina for joining us today. There was, there's obviously prep work that goes in on this behind the scenes, and y'all, I mean, the Salesforce team always comes prepared. So I just want to say a big thank you for your time today, as well as all the prep work that goes into this. Really, really appreciate each of you. So thank you very much. For community members, thank you, Amy. So for our community members, I do want to obviously extend my thanks for all of you for coming out for today's event. I do want to make sure that you follow Salesforce on Power to Fly. It's a really great way to make sure that you stay up to date. Even if you're not looking for roles currently, adding companies to your follow network means that when you go back to, you are curious about what opportunities are out there, you already have a short list of companies that you are interested in. So really, really great opportunities and resources to avail yourself of there. Like I said, that's it for us, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined us. I hope you have a safe, happy, healthy rest of your day, week, and weekend. And I hope that whether you are a frequent flyer with us or this was your first Power to Fly event, that we will see you back soon. Bye, y'all.